Training camp is almost here, folks. Training camp is almost here. I can't wait. This lull period of sports where it's just baseball. No offense to the baseball fans out there where every day of highlights on SportsCenter, web gems. Like, nah, man, I'm super good. I like baseball too. I'm just not that big into it. But this lull period of sports is almost finally over. We can get to training camp soon, preseason, and eventually the regular season. I can't wait. So what we're going to do on today's video, we're going to predict notable roster cuts for your Minnesota Vikings before the regular season starts. And let me just start off by saying this. On the defense, I don't see any at all. I think what you see, barring a trade, I don't see any losses on the defense as far as notable names. I think what you see is what you get as far as cuts are concerned. I don't think you'll see any. All of it is on the offense. All of the names that I am about to list is completely on the offense. We're going to start with the running back group. Now, this is interesting because I can see the Vikings cutting one or possibly two running backs. But let's assume that they're going to cut just one. I think it's going to be Ameer Abdullah. I think they're going to end up keeping, obviously, Dalvin Cook, Alex Madison. They're not cutting him. Mike Boone, that would be the other guy where I wouldn't be surprised if they were to cut him. I hope that they don't. I'll break it down a little bit further on Saturday's podcast on my personal YouTube channel, Realistic Randy. As far as training camp battles, I'll talk about Alex Madison versus Mike Boone for the RB2 spot. But if they were to cut two running backs, I could see Mike Boone being that second. But I think Ameer Abdullah is going to be the guy. And actually, even though, I guess in spite of Rock Thomas getting suspended for 3 games to start the season, he doesn't have to get cut. He doesn't have to be released. The Vikings, they still have 3 additional weeks into the regular season to decide if they want to keep him or not. I think they should keep him. And I think if it were me, I would keep him. But I wouldn't be surprised if they were to keep him either, because last year in the preseason, I said this. When I saw Rock Thomas on the field, I said, and we lost Jerick McKinnon, Jet, and I said to myself, man, that's such a huge loss, but I get why we're not going to sign him to a big deal. Hopefully he stays healthy in San Francisco, really in Santa Clara, but whatever with the 49ers. Hopefully he stays healthy. But when I saw Rock Thomas in the preseason last year, I said to myself, this is Jet. This is a spitting image of Jet, of Jerick McKinnon. When he can run between the tackles, he's not bad. He's elusive. When he catches screens, especially in the preseason when Trevor Siemian was his quarterback with the second team, because, good Lord, Trevor Siemian, he couldn't throw the ball downfield worth a damn. So all he was doing was throwing either check downs or screen passes. But catching passes out the backfield, or if you throw a quick screen pass to him and he turns the corner, Rock Thomas, he's elusive when you get him in open space. He's very patient. He lets his offensive lineman get out in space, and then before he makes his move, I like Rock Thomas a lot. I hope that they keep him over Ameer Abdullah. I think Rock Thomas, if you're looking for a running back to make more elusive type of plays on third downs, I think Rock Thomas should be your guy. I wouldn't be surprised if Ameer Abdullah is cut. Moving to the tight ends group, listen, we drafted Irv Smith Jr., you re-signed Kyle Rudolph, and there's a log jam at tight ends. Now, I know we're looking at 2 tight end set formations under Gary Kubiak, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were to keep 4 tight ends, but I don't think that they will. At this point, Tyler Conklin, for me, is the guy that's going to get cut, that I think will get cut if they do make a roster cut at the tight end group, because Tyler Conklin, he's a hell of a receiving tight end, but when you look at it like this, Kyle Rudolph, he's clearly tight end number 1. Irv Smith Jr., clearly tight end number 2. Possibly even wide receiver number 3, Irv Smith Jr. Again, we'll talk about that in training camp battles on the Saturday podcast. But Tyler Conklin, if he gets cut by the team, he should get picked up by another team. I think he's a hell of a receiving tight end. But when you consider Kyle Rudolph, Irv Smith Jr., Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, even Dalvin Cook to some degree, we have so many weapons that can catch the ball and can be terrific playmakers, to where if you're going to keep a third tight end, more so blocking is the thing that you're going to need the most. That's where the separation lies. And I think David Morgan, he stays on the roster because of that. And Tyler Conklin, I think he's going to get let go. Again, I think he should go to another team regardless, because he has a lot of potential. Tyler Conklin does. And then we go to the third group on offense, wide receivers. And before today's podcast, I was thinking to myself, they're not going to let this guy go. He's he's dead cap and all that fun stuff. But I think now the Vikings can afford to let him go, and that is the wide receiver group, and that is Laquon Treadwell. And before I get into this, I need people to understand something. Laquon Treadwell is I can tell he works really, really hard. This isn't a guy that's just lazy and he's just not putting in the effort. This is a guy who you can tell wants to be really, really great. The problem is he's not good at catching the football. And the times that I get on him only because of his play on the field. I lay that hand of the law out for everybody. Coaches, players, GM. It's never personal. The one time that I really, really got on him was week 2 at Green Bay at Lambeau Field, where he dropped 2 passes. One was just right in the chest. It would have gave them a first down. I believe it was on 3rd down. And then the other, I think it was with under 2 minutes left. Somehow, some way, we were able to tie the game anyway, despite Laquon Treadwell, who served up a ball. That was another drop that he had. Gave an interception to Kirk Cousins, which shouldn't count against him, but he served up a pass up in the air like a volleyball player, which led to the interception. So that's really the only times that I really got on him. I know I throw subtle shots at him, but it's just because his play on the field, it just hasn't worked out. The Vikings need to move on. He took Jerry's Wright's spot 2 years ago, back in 2017 that was, took spots away from him. It's time, man. You can't take away spots from either Chad Beebe, Jordan Taylor, or Irv Smith Jr. The time is now to move on. And even though he's going to have some dead cap, the Vikings can afford to do it. If you make a cut now, the Vikings will save just over $6,500 in cap room. So, you know what? I would take that if I were the Vikings. The Vikings, they can afford to cut him. They have guys up ahead of him that's going to be way better. The time is now to move on from Laquon Treadwell. And number 4, I don't think the Vikings will do this, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were. And that is Riley Reiff. Riley Reiff, if you're talking about a post-June 1st cut, the Minnesota Vikings will save $9.5 million against the cap. Now, why would they do that? Why would they cut Riley Reiff? Because this team, they have a history of playing musical chairs on the offensive line, most notably or more recently moving Mike Remmers from right tackle to right guard. That was a disaster. I wouldn't be surprised if they were to go that route again. I wouldn't do it as far as shuffling around the offensive linemen, possibly moving Brian O'Neill to left tackle. I think that would I wouldn't do it, but I could see why the Vikings would do that and then maybe have Rashad Hill at right tackle. I wouldn't do it, but I could see the logic behind it. I think you're better off leaving well enough alone with Brian O'Neill at right tackle, but I could see them trying to save $9.5 million in cap space with Riley Reiff. Now, that's the first reason as far as playing musical chairs with the offensive line. The second reason I could see them cutting Riley Reiff is a little over a month ago. I talked about this. A little over a month ago, I talked about how the Vikings should trade for left tackle, future first ballot Hall of Fame left tackle Trent Williams of the Washington Redskins. And last that I checked, he's still not happy. The team still hasn't resolved the financial contractual issues with Trent Williams. And also last time I checked, the Redskins, they're expecting him to show up to training camp. They're still expecting him to show up in the next week. Now, it's still out there. Possibly he may hold out for a new contract, for a new deal. That could be the second reason as far as why they would either trade or cut Riley Reiff and maybe add on a second-round pick, possibly even a Trey Waynes. That's the guy where I said, okay, I wouldn't see the Vikings cutting anybody on the defense, but if they are, it would be through a trade. Would you trade Riley Reiff or just cut him altogether and trade away a second-round pick and Trey Waynes, or maybe even include Riley Reiff into that for Trent Williams? We have issues with cornerback depth with Holton Hill being suspended and Mike Hughes coming off that ACL tear last year. But even still, I think I would do it. I think it would be worth it. Woo, that would be a hell of an offensive line, wouldn't it? So Riley Reiff would be gone. So you would have Trent Williams at left tackle, Pat Elflein at left guard, Garrett Bradbury at center. goodness, Josh Klein or Drew Samir at right guard and Brian O'Neill at right tackle. That's a pretty damn good offensive line, bro. So I can see it. I can see Rick Spielman just being that mad genius that he is at times when he's not getting in his own way and trying to get cute. But I wouldn't be surprised if they were to pull off a last-second deal for Trent Williams. Be on the lookout for that. Otherwise, they're going to just say, we're good with Riley Reiff. But I would personally do it. I would personally move on from him if possible, only for Trent Williams, not to play musical chairs on the offensive line. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Any more further notable names that you could see getting released, just cut. Now, if you want to talk about trades specifically, mention that in the comments section below in this video. We do this 3 times a week. Mediokr Best Sports Podcast with Realistic Randy. Oh, also, one more note before I get into the sign-off of this video. Saturday, you can check it out on my personal YouTube page, Realistic Randy. Twitter at Realistic_Randy. Facebook at Realistic Randy. Starting next week, the next 2 weeks after Saturday's podcast, I'm not going to be here. Not going to be here. I'm taking 2 weeks off. Got a wedding next week. The week after that, going to Myrtle Beach for a family vacation. If they trade for Trent Williams, you bet your ass I'm going to get out there on that sand and do a reactionary video. We'll see you on Saturday.